Formula One begins.
A wing that drives upside down, a telemetry screen that made Lewis Hamilton stop dead, and a former world champion who just said the word, stunned. This is not a story about an aerodynamic update. This is not a story about one race. This is the story of a team that read the rule book differently, a driver who may have just cracked the code on the most advanced racing car ever built, and a secret buried inside a Mercedes power unit that the entire paddock is now scrambling to understand. The question isn't whether Ferrari can close the gap to Mercedes. The real question is, what if they already have the answer, and Mercedes doesn't know it yet? Melbourne, Australian Grand Prix, the first race of the 2026 season, and Ferrari left with a problem they couldn't ignore. In qualifying, up to 10 kilometers per hour slower than Mercedes on the straights.
Some problems with our engine.
The SF26 hit 321 kilometers an hour on the back straight and hit a wall, an invisible aerodynamic wall that no engine mapping could fix. On Shanghai's 1.2 kilometer back straight, one of the longest on the calendar, that gap isn't just a disadvantage, that gap is a championship. But that was just the start. Because while Ferrari was calculating the deficit, something else was happening inside their garage. Lewis Hamilton, 15 years inside the Mercedes system, was looking at a telemetry screen. And what he saw on that screen wasn't just fast, it was different. Russell's Mercedes was maintaining electric thrust on the straights for longer than any other car on the grid. Not a brutal jump in top speed, something more subtle. A continuity in power delivery that didn't match the normal MG UK pattern. The hybrid system seemed to be deployed at moments when, in theory, it should have already been running dry. Because what happened next changed everything. Hamilton pointed at the screen and spoke directly to Ferrari's engineers. His read, Mercedes had found a more efficient way to manage energy recovery and redistribution during the lap. Not more energy than the rules allow, something smarter, deploying what they had at moments where every other car had nothing left. Mercedes had found a more efficient way to manage energy recovery and redistribution during the lap. Not more energy than the rules allow, something smarter, deploying what they had at moments where every other car had nothing left. The FIA ran additional checks after Melbourne. No clear irregularities were found, but the reports that leaked from inside the paddock used one very specific phrase: legal, but potentially revolutionary. And this is where the story gets dark. Because Ferrari couldn't match an engine advantage they couldn't legally copy, so they did something else entirely. They built a wing that dances. The 2026 regulations give every team active aerodynamics. Flaps open on the straight to cut drag, close in corners to rebuild downforce. Every team read that rule the same way. Ferrari read it differently. The regulations specify how the flaps must behave, but they say nothing about the main plane of the wing having to stay upright when the active system deploys. So Ferrari's engineers rotated the entire rear wing structure around its own axis as it opens. On the straight, the wing doesn't just reduce drag, it runs almost completely inverted, generating lift instead of downforce, thinning the air, cutting resistance at over 320 kilometers an hour. Fred Vasseur called it the Macarena because the movement looks like the arm gestures from the dance. The name is funny. The performance numbers are not. Reports from Bahrain testing put the straight line gain at 5 to 8 kilometers per hour on Shanghai's back straight. Simple solution, problem solved, right? Except the FIA needed extended discussions just to approve this wing's design. 3 different specifications are being shipped to Shanghai, not one. And this thing is being introduced on a sprint weekend, with exactly 60 minutes of free practice, where it has never once seen real race conditions. This isn't a sure thing. This is Ferrari gambling everything on a wing in China. Now here is where the story shifts completely. Because the Macarena wing, as bold as it is not Ferrari's most important weapon this weekend. Nico Rosberg, world champion, Hamilton's former teammate, the man who knows Lewis better than almost anyone still inside the paddock, said after Melbourne that what he is seeing has left him practically stunned. Not stunned by the car, stunned by the driver. Rosberg explained that when a driver joins a new team, their process goes through two phases. Phase 1, adaptation, micro-corrections in the steering, variable braking, corner entry that changes lap to lap. The driver is still discovering where the limit is. Phase 2, control. The micro-corrections disappear, braking becomes surgical, the driver stops reacting to the car and starts anticipating it, dominating it. For most drivers, that transition takes months, sometimes half a season. Rosberg started seeing Hamilton enter the control phase during the Bahrain pre-season tests in February, before a single championship point had been scored. Then Melbourne confirmed it. Hamilton's throttle application in Australia was the most aggressive of any driver on the entire grid. He was attacking fast corners with a level of violence that only exists when a driver completely trusts the front end of the car. Multiple sources inside the paddock said that both Vasseur and Leclerc were surprised by the pace Hamilton was showing, not in qualifying, not in the race, in the very first practice session. In Rosberg's most chilling observation, Ferrari still didn't have the fastest car in Melbourne. Mercedes had roughly half a second of advantage, and Hamilton and Leclerc were already performing at this level, which means the ceiling for this team hasn't even been touched yet. So what does all of this actually mean? Layer 1, the team. Vasseur said after Melbourne his goal is not to match Mercedes eventually, not to be competitive by mid-season. His exact language, to reach them as quickly as possible. Ferrari reversed a no-update decision overnight. They're shipping 3 wing specs to a sprint weekend. An engine architectural redesign, Project 678, is already in development. This is not a team managing a season. This is a team in a controlled sprint. Layer 2, the championship. The FIA is changing its compression ratio testing rules in June. The regulatory interpretation that may be contributing to Mercedes' current power advantage has a fixed expiry date. Every race before June is a race Ferrari needs to survive close enough to strike. The Macarena wing is the bridge. The new engine is the weapon waiting on the other side. Layer 3, the driver dynamic. Leclerc arrived in 2026 already at the car's limit. Hamilton is closing that gap faster than anyone predicted. When two drivers of this caliber push the same car in complementary directions, Leclerc extracting pure speed, Hamilton feeding back data at a level only 15 years in a championship team can produce, development accelerates exponentially. This wasn't just a race in Melbourne. It was a warning.
Scenario 1. The Macarena wing works. Hamilton rockets off the line, takes turn 1, and the back straight becomes a Ferrari procession. The sprint win doesn't just give Ferrari points, it sends a message to every team on the grid that the aerodynamic war is already over. Scenario 2. The wing under-delivers on a live track. Ferrari shelves it for one more race. Mercedes wins again. The gap stays. But the engine redesign arrives in Monza in September, into a regulatory landscape where the compression ratio loophole has already been closed, and Ferrari unleashes everything at once. Scenario 3. The FIA closes the Mercedes loophole in June. The performance gap shrinks overnight, and suddenly, Ferrari, with 2 of the most experienced drivers on the grid, a wing that nobody else has copied, and an engine built for the new rules, isn't chasing anymore. Silver arrows, red car in the mirrors, getting closer. Does the Macarena fly in Shanghai, or does it need one more race? Has Hamilton already reached full control of the SF26, or are we only seeing the beginning? And when June arrives and the rulebook changes, will Mercedes still have anything left to defend with? The lights go out in Shanghai this weekend, but the real race, the one that decides this championship, has already started. If you made it this far, You already know, this season isn't about who's fastest right now, it's about who survives long enough to become unstoppable. Drop your Shanghai prediction below. Does the Macarena dance, or does Mercedes hold on?